Great moments are born from great opportunity.
Football is about controlling that anger, harnessing that aggression into a team effort to achieve perfection.
It's supposed to be hard. If it wasn't hard, everyone would do it. The hard is what makes it great.
Welcome back. We are back for episode 8, Bubs, back at the Play Ball facility. Got a lot of good feedback from the last episode.
We did. It was good. Eric did a good job. Producer Joe put together a really, really cool episode.
I think baseball people are watching it more than football people because I got raked over the coals.
I think so. And you had set me up with the Babe Ruth. So, like, I put it on the tee for you, and the feedback was still pretty unanimous that it was going to be baseball.
Yeah, I liked that got a lot of track and field.
Which is true.
It is. It's the Olympics, right?
Yeah.
So the Olympics, you're going through, you're running, jumping, it's everything. To me, my real answer is a basketball. When you watch a basketball game, it's pure athleticism throughout the entire game, and
sure.
that's where my real answer is. So, back off, people.
That was good.
It was fun.
Good episode.
It was fun, and Eric's out there trying to get 20 shares so we can bring him back.
He's 8 short as of now, so I don't think it's going to happen. But
he's got until midnight tonight.
He does. You never know.
It's Wednesday on a snow day, so we'll see. People are watching.
Yeah, help him out.
We got some big news, Bubs. You got some big news, and I want to give you the opportunity to share it. But as your friend, somebody who loves you and is really proud of you, like, man, I couldn't be more happy for you and the way you keep going and you keep striving to do more and to do better. I'm excited for you. So go ahead and let us know what's going on.
So a couple weeks ago, we signed an LOI on a Play Ball Academy or Play Ball Sports Bar in Gorille. So it's going to be located less than 2 miles from our facility location, right off of Sheridan and Evans. Pretty cool location. Again, another area I grew up in, right down the street from Lincoln High School. Always an adventure I wanted to attempt in life, and it's just a good time, Jess. Prime real estate in that area. It's in my backyard, and our facility's doing pretty well, so I think we got enough clientele where we'll be able to piggyback over there.
Yeah.
Just fundraisers, you figure the family environment. My biggest thing is just to know that it is 100%, in my opinion, going to be one of the better sports bars in Southwest Denver. And I'm excited to lay it out. I'm nervous as can be.
Yeah,
like we talked about, it's like getting that coaching gig, right? Like you want it, you apply for it, you're excited for it, and when they say it's yours, you're like, oh my god.
Yeah, here it is.
I'm like, like what's going on?
Now it's time to go.
But yeah, we'll hit the ground running. We're due to open in September of 2023. We're looking at gauging right around the football season. Kind of kick off the NFL type stuff. So a lot of work, but we're excited.
You got a lot of friends. I heard you need a demo crew.
Well, we have the whole demo crew set up. Jess has that nice shiny pickup truck back there that I'm sure we'll be using. But no, that's the cool thing about it, Jess. When I was like, you guys knew about the idea before a lot of people, but you guys were also supportive. I always ask my friends, my close friends and family, for just positives and negatives, and I think I really valued your guys' opinion in making some of the decisions. So it's good.
It's a big jump, and like I said, we're proud of you and we're happy for you. So we can't wait for it to open.
I appreciate it.
Does that mean that we get free beers, or
we'll have a new podcast location?
Okay.
We'll probably have a live audience, Jess.
Hey.
I think that'll be kind of cool.
That would be kind of cool.
Yeah, just
that would be awesome.
Just to have that atmosphere and do some stuff.
Yeah.
So hopefully in the coming weeks or future shows, I'll have some renderings up, and we get a ton of support.
Awesome.
So it'll be good.
Cool.
Thank
Congratulations
you.
again.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Congratulations
Thank you
again.
very much. Yes.
Yeah. So this, I came across. I was watching a lot of Instagram, YouTube stuff, and coming across a lot of sports videos that are like just kind of grasping. This one kind of hit home because it's local.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna show you a video, and I want you, number one, to tell me what you think is happening in this video.
Okay.
And then we're going to discuss a little bit because I know exactly what happened in it because, like I said, it's local and I knew about it. So I'm going to show this to you. I'll explain what's happening as Bubba's watching it, and then Producer Joe will make some magic happen and put it on the screen for you guys to watch.
Sure.
So it's real short. So what it is, it's a female athlete. She's shooting a free throw, and girl from the opposing team comes and snatches the ball from her, and it looks like she goes down and she gets a layup on the other side. So
wow,
that's it. So what do you think happened in that video?
So I'm assuming, so the female team is, well, both of them are female teams. One of the teams is on the free throw line. I'm assuming a 1-and-1, and they gave the ball back to her to shoot a second free throw, and a defender went and took the ball and went opposite way. It looks like for a layup.
Yeah.
With everybody else on the court pretty much watching. Yeah, that'll be a good video to show because there's so much really going on.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's exactly what happened. Exactly what you said. It's a 1-and-1.
Wow.
She missed the front end of the 1-and-1. I don't exactly know how she got the ball back, but there's one girl on the court, and this is where I want to open the discussion and make it more about coaching, right? There's one girl on the court who knows the situation. There's one girl and the official. The official knows that it's a 1-and-1 because the girl looks at the official and says, "Can I take it?"
The official starts going the opposite way, like it's a live ball. Yeah.
So that's one part of it, right? So let's talk about the lack of awareness from 9 girls on the court.
Wow.
Coaches on the stands, like this is a JV basketball game.
Wow. So those girls are obviously juniors or below.
Yeah.
Technically, Chassa rule-wise. And you're right, Jess. Looking at that video, there was no reaction from the sidelines, right?
No.
So we can say 9 on the court, but you figure 4 subs on each side.
Yeah.
So you'd factor all those players because there was really no emotion or feedback. And we couldn't see the visiting coach, but the home coach said nothing.
Nothing.
Wow.
And so, like it brings us back to like the origin of why we're doing this, right? If you're not teaching the basics, if we're talking about a 1-and-1 and everybody knows a 1-and-1, you miss the first one, ball's live.
Yeah.
And we have 9 kids on the court who don't understand that. I mean, to me, that's got to be on coach.
100% on coach. That is on
both coaches.
Without a doubt. Wow. I don't even know where I would start with that.
Yeah.
Like you'd see that 9 or 10-year-old game.
Yeah.
Probably common. Like I have a daughter that's 9. I'd probably see that happen.
Right.
Like, hey, you got to do that. But there would still be, in my opinion, more than one athlete on the court that would have an idea.
Yeah. So that's one part of it, right? The next part of it is when you go into the comments. So we talked about social media stuff last week and how I think the word that I used when Eric did the word play was I used detrimental, and you used overplayed or something like that.
I think I said diluted.
Diluted,
It was just like everybody attempting stuff, yeah.
So there's over 1,800 comments on this video.
Oh, wow.
Ranging from bashing women for being referees, like she has no business on the court. This is why women don't get paid as much as men. And I mean, it's 1,800 comments. I didn't go through all of them. I'm just kind of scrolling through.
So even the viewers, didn't probably know what was going on,
right,
but immediately went to the sexism style of critiquing why it happened.
Yeah, and that's where it becomes detrimental, right? Is because everybody puts their opinion out there. Wow. They don't know the entire information. And maybe whoever posted the video was looking for these reactions because you could have posted the entire video.
Right. Like the first free throw or
and then
to see how they got the ball back. Yeah.
So that's where the social media stuff gets diluted, right? So that was one part of it. One part of it was they were talking about how this woman official has no business refereeing because she's a woman. And
that's sad, man.
And it hurts sports at the end. And then, so we're talking about sexism, and we're talking about, then we go to race. Some other comments said that, oh, this is just a white official letting a white girl take the ball from a young black girl. There was comments in there like that, and I don't want to get on the race issue, but
wow.
The fact is that girl, because I know who that girl is who took the ball.
Yeah.
She's not white.
Yeah.
She's Latina, as a matter of fact. But I don't think we stop to pause to see how detrimental our comments and everything that we put out there on social media is without having all of our facts. And it doesn't just happen in sports.
You're 100% right, but I just can't believe it gauged from that to sexism and racist.
Yeah.
You know? But you're Jess, you're right though. Like anything we scroll on is really gonna go to that extreme, and it's crazy how immediate it does.
And fast. And like if you're the parent of any of those kids, right? Like you're talking about my kid,
right?
And that's where the problems start, right? Like you're talking about my kid.
How many comments would you assume were like about the girls not knowing the game of basketball, like just the coaching aspect, right? Like, hey, that's a JV game. I bet nobody. Well, I wouldn't say nobody. 1,200 comments. I'd say less than 3% mentioned a one-on-one situation and kind of had a basketball background of what was going on.
There was a few that actually just picked up on it like you, like, oh, this is a 1-on-1, and
yeah, just to kind of see it play out. It wasn't the whole video, but you'd have to assume that because the one player on the court was right on it.
Yeah, but it becomes laughable because of how terrible the comments become, the lack of awareness that the kids showed and that the coaches displayed, and then the hatred, right? Like, what are we doing?
That's unreal, man.
So
no, it's crazy to think about. And the toughest thing, Jess, right? Us as a coaching angle, is it seems like everything we do is with the phone out or on us, right? Everything. Like, I can name 3, just on the baseball side, 3 coaches that have had to have career changes, job changes, just because of something that was caught and exposed by a parent.
Yeah.
And it was all it was all on purpose. Like, I don't know the word I'm trying to get out, but like they purposely wanted to catch the coach doing something.
Right. They were hunting for
looking
for a mistake.
And it was almost a setup. Like, hey, let's go to the dugout. They just got 10 ran. I know my son didn't play. Let's see what the coach has to say. Boom, the coach is gone. My son gets more playing time. Like, that's extremely tough to do, man.
Just waiting for the coach to slip up in that one moment, and you know, that's why it's really hard to find coaches right now, and officials, right? Because who in their right mind wants to put themselves through that type of scrutiny?
No, imagine the poor kids in this video, or imagine the coach, because there's a coach that's physically seen in this video.
Yeah.
Like, going to a league meeting or having to go answer. If you said that's JV, his varsity coach had to say something.
You would hope.
Like, hey, man, like, look, we're on social media looking like we don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's tough. It's
is
tough, man, and I look at the athlete aspect of that too, right? Like, we tell the kids don't be afraid to fail, but if you got 50 million phones in front of you to fail, and you know that it has the option of going viral, like, how do you get the best out of them, right? Like, hey, go D this kid up. Well, coach, he's really good, and I don't want my ankles to get broke on camera because it's gonna blow up, you know.
There's a study, and I can't cite the study. I was told about this study, and it's about the human brain and how we are not evolved enough to handle criticism from more than 20 people. So when you think about that, right? Like, there was this situation in high school where me and a couple of our friends were sitting in the gym. This girl's walking through the gym, and we're the only ones in there. She trips and she falls. This is a true story.
Okay.
And
just a couple people.
Just a couple people. We laughed, right? She got up. She was embarrassed. She walked away. Now, if that happens, as soon as that girl walks through the doors, somebody's filming her, right? And that's terrible. She falls, then it's posted. And so instead of just 3 people laughing at her, you have 20, 30 to 40. And then we wonder why our kids right now are suffering with so much mental health.
Sure. Anxiety, everything you can think of, it's because of those situations. It's like almost unforgivable, right?
Yeah.
There's no like, oh, Mulligan style, like, hey, I hope someone didn't see. Everybody sees
saw.
Because of the camera and the aspect, and that is a perfect example why.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just crazy to think about, Jess.
It is.
Very, very crazy.
All right, so we're going to switch gears a little bit. Bubs, you got some questions from...
I did. I had a couple parents here at the facility. One of them emailed in. I had a discussion with one this weekend. 14U Diamond Diva parent. Her daughter plays softball here. She noticed our journey. She was real, she's a neighborhood lady. She graduated from Lincoln High School. I believe she was in like 83, 84 class.
Okay.
She's really proud of the neighborhood. And she said, hey, your guys' journey is really cool. But talk about just working in the different school districts, like how that has changed and what are the differences between them. So
okay.
I think you can probably touch base. Yeah.
So I went from a really big district in DPS. It's the biggest district in the state, and then went to smaller, and then now I'm in a really small district. I think the biggest difference is resources. When you're such a large district, your resources are scattered all over the place, right? Yeah. So, you would like to think that everybody's getting the same and equal and equitable and stuff like that, but it doesn't feel that way when you're in a big district. Like you at Lincoln, you could feel like you're slighted a little bit because school, let's say Denver East, right, is getting more facility upgrades and things like that. So it's a lot harder. I would assume to manage the larger districts.
Yeah.
Jeffco, DPS, and then I went to Adams 12, and it was a little bit easier, right? There was still resources, an abundance of resources, and then now at my current school in my current school district, I mean I feel like we don't want for anything. There's so I think the biggest difference is resources and how those are allocated out.
Oh, I think that makes sense. And it's right, like a big school district, not everybody's going to get an equal piece of the pie, I guess is the thing to say. My thing on the coaching aspect, starting off in DPS, going to Jeffco, then trying out the private sector, and then from them going to the collegiate side of things, it's night and day, Jess.
Yeah.
It really is. Being at Denver Public Schools, we didn't really get much. The smallest seasonal budget that I've ever been a part of.
Yeah.
We're talking $400 or $500, and that was the school district where we needed the most because of the kids we were coaching had nothing. They didn't have two parents at home. Fundraising was minute. We started a program where there was no diamond club, nothing like that, right? So it was already pushing a rock up a hill. You go to the private sector where it's tuition based. There was no annual budget. Whatever I wanted, we got. Whatever the program needed, there was no questions asked. It was there within a timely manner. And then you went to Jefferson County. The thing I loved about Jefferson County is I felt from the coaching standpoint, if we ever had concerns, no matter where, I was at Jefferson, which was inner city, and then I went to Chatfield, which was, a nicer Littleton area, big baseball program. Wherever my voice or questions or concerns were needed, Jeffco attempted to meet those.
Yeah.
And that was very, very comfortable, where, I just felt that district heard concerns and attempted to solve problems.
I think that's a very valid point. You talk about where do these districts value athletics?
Yeah.
What is the value of athletics? And you show that through money, right? Like,
Right.
how do I allocate my money?
Sure.
What gets what here
Yeah,
and there?
even just like field conditions,
Yeah.
right? Like, hey, like we needed to upgrade our dugouts. We needed to, hey, can we get some new dirt, or we need to build a mound here or
Yeah.
something. You throw an idea out, and we attempted to do that with Denver Public Schools, kind of one ear and out the other, right? It was like
Yeah.
you're on your own, do your own thing. And I'm a smart guy. I go back and look at budgeting. I see how much money's allocated and do stuff. You kind of look at it like, squinting like, well, what is the issue?
Yeah.
You have 10 times more money than any other school district in our state, and yet you can't provide us with the necessities we need to compete just to have a level playing field against everybody we're against, you know? And I get it. Like, we, as a coach, we take on a burden. Some of the stuff is definitely our job to do, but, you got to kind of meet us halfway if you're a district and you're trying to support athletics.
Yeah,
and
as an athletic director, one thing that I'm really happy about, when my coaches come to me and they're like, hey, I need this, and this. I don't know that there's been a time where I've been like, no, I mean, unless it's something unethical or something like that. But if it's something that we needed batting cage for the baseball facility, so we got them a batting cage. Right? They needed a Bubba,
the big Bubba turtle.
The big Bubba turtle. We got the big Bubba turtle. So there's value that's placed by our district on athletics, and it shows through the budget that I get, right? And how I manage that.
Sure. No, I think it's great. But it is a big difference on where you're at.
Yeah.
And I think coaches need to know that. Parents need to know that. But yeah, I thought that was a good question.
Yeah, it is a good question.
Our second question, this was just a slow pitch softball player. We were talking about our last podcast, and he asked, what do you classify as an ideal athlete to coach, and why? I thought another good question.
Yeah. So I was watching one of our basketball games last week, and there's this kid. He's 5'7", 5'6", maybe 150 pounds soaking wet. He was the best player on the court. And when I'm looking at an athlete, the one thing that number one, like, are you committed, right? I'll go through all those things. But I want their competitiveness. I want somebody who's competitive. The kid who won't back down. The kid who looks at the bigger kid and is like, I'm going to go at you. Or doesn't let the better athlete get the best of him, or gets up 10 times after being knocked down 9. So the one thing that I would always go to, and if I could have 22 highly competitive kids on the field from a football standpoint, I want those kids. Because I've seen athletes that can jump out of the gym, can run fast, but you put them on the field and they don't compete.
100% right.
Give me the competitor.
Yeah, just the guy, the dogs, right?
Yeah.
We want the dogs that are going to work hard. My biggest thing, if your best athlete is the hardest worker in your program,
Michael Jordan.
you know you are going to be, you're going to have a great year.
Yep.
And I was lucky to really surround myself with that a lot, you know, where you see the kids in tryouts and you're like, man, this kid's really good, but can he do this 7 days a week? Is he going to be a leader with others? Is he going to be a kid that shuts off because he knows he's better? And the kids that rise to the top and play at an extremely high level are the ones that just get after it every day. I love the athletes that like to practice more than play. And on the baseball standpoint, you have to. Repetition base. And we don't reinvent the wheel, man. There's going to be T-work. There's going to be front toss drills they've been doing since they're 9 years old. But the kids that fall in love with that and help their teammates fall in love with that, man, they're special to be around.
Yeah.
And I can probably, Jess, I've been doing it 20 years. I'm probably on one hand, maybe slightly two hands of athletes I can count that I knew were just special athletes, special guys, right?
Yeah.
And I've been around some really good ball players, but to have that edge of I'm going to get people around me better is a special trait.
Yeah.
And I think it's not as common as we think now.
No, it's not. That it was just reminded. I keep picturing that kid that I was talking about. So in that we were playing the #1 team in 4A, and he just absolutely balled, like defensively, offensively. But he also played football, and he had a game where he had 2 touchdown receptions, a pick six, and 2 interceptions in the same game. This same kid at that same height. I just want that kid who wants to compete.
Yeah, it just has an edge, right?
Yeah.
I think that's fair to say, man. Just a kid that has a chip on his shoulder, plays that way. But I like selfless people, man. I like surrounding myself with that on and off the court and or the field, and it's good.
And a coach tip, you brought up your best player is your hardest worker. I think one thing that youth coaches do a lot is they coddle their best players.
True.
And they reach out to parents and they want to keep the kid on the team, which I get, right? But it's like, you don't need to come to practice. Just show up for the game because that kid is that good, and so that kid's going to show up to the game. He's going to ball out. That becomes detrimental when they get to high school.
I totally agree with you. And if they want to play at a high level, like, it's a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
There's 10 of those Joeys, and they're immediately eliminated, and they're that neighborhood legend, right?
Yep.
It's because they were coddled and treated that way through it. And you, as well as I know, we get those kids at the high school level, and I single those kids out right away.
Yeah.
And I'll tell them up front, yes, you are the best athlete on the field, but we do not need you on our team if you are not going to work.
Yep.
I'm letting you know that right now. And I'll do that in a group or peer setting, not to belittle them in any way, but to let them know that I will take a guy with half the talent that works 10 times as hard because my job is to develop that and get him better.
Yep.
And you're not going to put the kink in the chain for that to happen,
Yeah.
So it's good to do that. I hope I commend coaches that don't pat kids on the butt if they're not doing well. Don't say, hey man, yeah, you're good. You're going to be fine. You're still going to score 30. No, you're not.
No.
You're not going to. You're lazy today.
Yeah.
You didn't practice all week long. That's going to get exposed at the highest level.
Yep. Absolutely.
So it's good. But
Yeah.
2 good questions.
There was 2 good questions.
I
Nice.
really thought of. And Jess, I'm gonna shoot some questions at you.
All right.
Okay, so this is I thought this would be a cool segment. I came up with a couple questions from a coach to
Okay.
an AD.
All right.
Okay, some stuff that you may have had coaches come to you with, but I'd be curious how you deal with it, and then just some reasoning why you would deal with it. Okay. Let's say.
Oh, I'm nervous.
Yeah. No, I'm kind of nervous. There might be some differential with this
Yeah.
because some of this stuff I've heard of happening. Not necessarily I've ever asked, but I have a strong opinion on some of this stuff, and I'll explain why after we talk. Let's say it's Saturday, or let's say it's Thursday. Eligibility came out on Wednesday.
Okay.
I'm a football coach, and we're playing Friday night against our league rival for a championship, and our starting quarterback's ineligible.
Okay.
And I come to you that Thursday, and I say, Jess, Joey is ineligible this week. Is there anything we can do? He has 2 Fs and a D. Can he go back and talk to his teacher? Is there anything that he can physically do or you can do to get him going for this game?
That's a tough one. And situations, right? You got to take every situation as an individual situation. I'm not one that likes blanket rules.
Sure.
Because there are circumstances where maybe that kid did do the work and the teacher didn't upgrade his grade book.
Sure.
So my rule of thumb with any eligibility thing is it has to come from the teacher.
Sure.
So if there's a question about a grade, I don't want to hear it from you, kid. I want to hear it from the teacher, and I want to talk to that teacher. The teacher can tell me, hey, Johnny is good on his grades. I didn't update my grade book, or I didn't do this, so he's good.
Sure.
So I'll go to the teacher. But as a rule of thumb, that eligibility report comes out, you got to follow it.
Sure.
And it's just like any rule that's out there, right? If you don't follow the eligibility rule, then it's going to get broke here, and it's going to get broke here, and then it's going to get broke here, and then now what do you have?
Right.
There's coaches that do a really good job, because once that eligibility report is given to the coach, then it's on them, because I can't be at every game. But if I go and there's a kid out there that's playing that shouldn't be playing, then we have an issue.
Right.
But as a rule of thumb, you got to follow it.
Sure.
I tell the coaches, hey, eligibility comes out on Thursday. That kid's ineligible from Monday to Saturday of the next week, so just make sure it happens. Sure. But you got to follow it. Or whenever you make a rule, whenever you have a rule, you have to follow that rule, because as soon as you don't follow that rule, you lose credibility.
I think that's so true. My biggest thing from the coaching standpoint on that, in 20 years I've never asked that, you make the kids accountable for everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that's just a lifelong goal. You don't say, hey, I only worked 20 hours this week, but my paycheck, I want 40 hours of pay.
Yeah.
Like, you're setting them up for that.
Right.
And my biggest thing is, like, I never really wanted to get too involved in the classroom stuff, because they're young men and that's their sanctuary, man.
Yeah.
Like, they come out to my field, they'll come out to, we establish that, and we care about what's going on in the school. But to even have coaches, I think it's a common occurrence that I talk to these coaches, or, my sister's an athletic secretary. I know a lot of ADs that are good friends, Jess. And it's just a common question for people to bend the rules. And I don't like that, man. I think it lowers the bar, and that's not where we're trying to go with athletics, in my opinion.
No, it's not. And every time you lower the bar to make things easier for a kid, you are really chopping them off at the feet.
Enabling them, man.
You really are. And you don't see it right away, and maybe that kid will be fine. That will never resurface in a bad way, but you're telling everybody else that it's okay. And once you're ineligible, I just got to go talk to you. Sure. And then we'll make it right.
Yeah, that's what it is. Oh, no, yeah, well, it came out Wednesday. It's up now on Thursday. Well, the rule says Wednesday, buddy. Like, unfortunately, you're going to have a consequence. You're going to miss the big league game.
Yeah.
And it sets the tone for the rest of the program.
Yeah.
Like, think about that. If, Jimmy's the starting quarterback and they didn't let him play by one day, you're absolutely right. So let's make sure no one's ineligible the rest of the year, because the tone is set. I just think people and as administration, I think coaches, and I absolutely think parents and kids right now are just afraid to set the tone. Everyone wants their own beat and their own drum, and that puts you in a bad position to play at a high level, man.
It does.
Because I'm telling you right now, if that happened at Metro State University, the kid wouldn't even practice. I don't care if it was the best dude around, right?
Yeah.
And here's another thing: we're at a 41-man roster. Do you not think that these kids are smart? Jimmy, you're ineligible. I'm playing. I get to play now. You don't want to ever wish bad on your teammates,
Right.
but you want to get on the field, man.
Yeah.
So, people are waiting for that opportunity, and I know it may not happen at the high school level because you're talking smaller teams, but kids need to realize that early,
Yeah, for sure.
All right, next question.
Okay.
We kind of talked about amenities, you being an AD. You kind of already went through, hey, someone came up and said they needed some stuff. Let's talk about, you hire a coach,
Okay.
and it's just a new coach for any particular sport, and they interview. I know we kind of talked the interview process a couple episodes ago, but let's say during the interview they told you, hey, if I get this job, I'm positive I can have enrollment jump and I can bring some kids from another school. How would you technically reply to that?
Have I
statement?
hired him already, or this is during the interview?
You've hired him.
He's hired him. And
So,
then, so this is our first meeting after.
This is your first meeting after, and he comes and says, hey, I have 4 or 5 kids from these schools that are going to definitely enroll here.
So the first thing is, here's the rules for transfer,
Sure.
right? So I got to follow the rules for transfer. Here's the rules for transfer. Are they bona fide moves? Are they hardships? What's the situation that we're getting there? It's not how we're going to conduct business. And I always tell coaches, if you want to recruit, do it in 8th grade.
Sure.
Because we are open choice,
enrollment school,
open
yeah.
enrollment, right? So the 8th graders, for lack of better terms, are fair game. So go ahead, go visit all that
Sure.
stuff. And there's rules against it, but that's where it's going to happen. If you're going to get a kid, you get them in 8th grade. These transfers that come in, I ask them, who are these kids? Why are they leaving their school?
Right.
What are we getting by inheriting other person's problems?
Sure.
So I think there's a lot that goes to it. So, but as a general rule of thumb, I'm always gonna
push.
push that away.
Yeah, 100%. Just say, hey, this is what they have to do.
Yeah.
Check.
This is why we hired you to work with our kids.
Well, that's the biggest thing. I
Yeah.
think that's the correct statement, Jess, that
Yeah.
I was going to get towards. You're hiring somebody to get the athletes that are walking through your hallways better,
Yes.
right? Anybody can come in and say, hey, I'm going to bring, Jimmy, Johnny, and Joey over here, and we're going to win a state title. Yeah, but Jimmy, Johnny, and Joey aren't in our school district.
Yeah.
I want the kids that I'm seeing out at the grocery store benefit. I know our teachers and our community and our local businesses, they want to come here and see people that support them, right? We want those people to get better.
If you're in it for just winning, that's the way you do it.
Right.
You go find the great athletes, and again, I love winning. I'm not against winning, but I ask coaches 3 questions. What are you doing to improve yourself? What are you doing to improve your program? What are you doing to improve your athletes? That's the 3 things I look
Sure.
at. Because if a coach is doing those 3 things, they're learning in the off season, they're going to clinics, they keep their learning base wide and open.
Yeah.
Then that's great. If they're promoting their program, right, they're doing things in the off season that make that program stand out better, then we're doing great there. And then if you're improving your athletes academically, character wise, if you're doing that, then that process will carry into wins. And I truly believe it. That's why I love coaches who have high expectations, because you're hitting all those things.
Sure. No, I like it. And it's not like unreasonable expectations. You can always aim high, and then, like you said, you got to have the plan to get there,
Yeah.
right? Because everyone's going to go in and talk a game when they're in the hiring process. If they're the best thing around,
Yeah.
they're going to turn the program and do stuff. That's going to be everybody.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you look at experience, and then you look at the game plan of how they're going to execute that.
Yep.
And if they've already done that prior, that's going to help them out a lot.
Yeah, what's your plan?
Right.
I want to see. One of the coolest things that I've learned and I've done it once is come coach. I'm gonna have the basketball team here. You've got 30 minutes. Show me.
Love it.
And you get to see how they teach. You get to see how they connect, because you can't run a great practice in 30 minutes, but I can see how you communicate. I
Sure.
can see if the kids respond to you.
Yeah.
I can see if you were well thought out and planned out. Those things reveal it. It's not just me and you sitting here talking and I'm like telling you, oh, I do this and I'm great at this
Sure.
and I'm all that. Everybody
to
does
see
that
it
interview.
live.
I get to see it.
Well, I like it that you put it in a half-hour condensed, idea, because you have to be able to maneuver and adjust.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I like that, man, because you know how high school is. We could have snow one day, and then you tell me, hey, you only got 45 minutes in the gym.
Yeah.
Like, the good coaches are going to be like, cool, I got some maxed out, let's ready to roll.
Yeah.
Hey, you got 2 hours, but you're practicing at 8 at night. Great. Well, I have that plan mapped
Yeah.
out, So it's just being able to adapt and adjust. The great coaches do that well.
For sure.
Last question. This is, I'm sure something you deal with daily.
Okay.
The parent to AD issues about a coach. It could be playing time. Coach hates my kid. Coaches, tossed my kid out of practice. I'm sure you've heard every story under the book.
Yeah.
And I know you're a prior coach, so I know you've seen it from that side also.
Yeah.
So there, in my opinion, whoever works for you, Jess, is extremely lucky. Works with you, works for you. I'm sure you're going to say works with you, just because you've had both aspects of that. But just shed lightly on some of those.
So philosophically, I like to keep parent complaints away from my coaches if there's no weight to them, right?
Sure.
Like the playing time stuff, the first question I'll ask parents is, have you spoke to coach?
Sure.
Has your son or daughter spoke to the coach about these concerns?
Sure.
Usually, the answer is no. I would encourage you to reach out to the coach and talk to them, have it, because sometimes maybe it's not a miscommunication, but it's just an eye-opening, like you're not doing A, B, and C right, so this is the reason why you're not playing.
Right.
So I like, because as a coach, I knew how annoying it was to be inundated with parent calls and complaints. So that's one part of it. I like to keep that away. But the other part is I always tell my coaches, you have to be available to parents.
Sure.
Because, again, going back to these are their most precious things that we have on this earth, right?
That's their skin in the game, for sure. It's their kid, yeah.
So the moment you cut yourself off to parents, that's when the problems are going to come up.
Sure.
So if you're one of these guys that say, my practices are locked, nobody allowed in, and that's an extreme example, you're going to get parent questions, because I want to know as a parent, what is happening
Sure.
with my kid in that. And if they're coming home and they're saying that A, B, and C, I have no choice but to believe them.
Correct.
So be open to parents as a coach, is the one thing I always tell our coaches. But I like to keep that away from our coaches so that way they can coach.
Sure. No, I think that helps out tremendously. And I'm sure you filled a ton of questions as an AD, man. Everything
It's
under
funny.
the sun. I couldn't imagine, man. And there's probably some stuff that never got to you on the coaching side.
Yeah.
If you had good ADs that you were under, but
Yeah.
but I'm sure you being a filter is good.
Yeah, and I that's a great way to put it. Is I try to be a filter.
Sure.
And I always ask, right? I take every parent concern like seriously because end of the day, we're here to serve the kids. I feel like we're in service to the kids and to the community, which is the parents.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna complain, take the time to call and complain and say this. I'm gonna do my job and I'm gonna follow up, see what's going on, and then. But I'll ask you, like, did you talk to the coach?
Yeah, follow it up. That's the best thing.
Yeah.
I was lucky, man. I took the job over at Chatfield, and one of my main rules in a cut-based sport was my 11 coaches would always evaluate the kids during that 2-3 day process, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we'd evaluate on paper for every kid, and then we'd go through our cut list and do everything. And then I would walk over to my AD with the folder of 95
This
kids
is what?
trying out, and I would just hand you the evaluations, right?
Yeah.
And then we would call every kid in the program. I wasn't old school. We didn't post it on the locker. None. We'd call the cuts, the kids that made it. And if any parent was like, well, why? Like, what was his evaluation? I would immediately point to my athletic director and say, all of those are public. You can go on there and look at anybody's that you
Yeah.
like. And the AD looked at me and he was like, you really do that? And I go, yeah. Like, because we're right into practices.
Yeah.
Like, we're right into practices. If I'm
Mhm.
going to fill 95 calls of, like, why he didn't make varsity and he made JV, or why he got cut, or why isn't he a freshman that's playing JV, like, I would have a full-time job just doing that, you know?
This is what makes you good because I ask my coaches, especially those that have to cut,
Yeah,
what is your evaluation tool?
sure.
Because that's going to save you
Yeah.
once cuts happen. Because if you're just posting stuff, then it's open for interpretation.
Sure.
You didn't like me.
Yeah.
You cut me last year, so you're cutting me again. Like, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, right? Because you have no weight on why you made the cut.
Sure.
Unless you have something like
Well,
that.
I liked it because there was 11 opinions in the binder.
Yeah.
Right? There was 11 coaches that had evaluated. And maybe there was 4 that said, hey, he should make this team. But there was 7 that said no. Then it was obvious the kid wasn't going to make
Yeah.
a team. But I was just lucky enough to have an athletic director that didn't say, whoa, I'm not doing that. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I've never done that. He was like, yeah, man. And he was able to filter it. And then when just by announcing that to the parents, immediately was like, all right, he's already got it covered. I'm never
Yeah.
going to follow up.
So
you know?
you did. I was gonna ask you. You did communicate that with parents before tryouts?
100%.
Yeah.
I said, hey, here's our evaluation. Here's our sheet. Everyone look at what we're doing. We're indoors because it's winter time for our tryouts, unfortunately. But here's our circle of what we're doing. And it's not only my eyes that are evaluating. We have 11 coaches, you know? And it worked out extremely well. Very rarely had to even take any appointments exceeding those evaluation
Yep.
sheets. But we had a good AD that did it.
Yep.
Because I honestly think there's some athletic directors out there, Jess, that aren't good at their jobs, you know?
It's time consuming, especially when you talk about that part of the job.
Yeah.
It takes one parent phone call is usually a half hour of your day.
Sure.
At minimum,
Sure.
a half hour of your day. If it's a complaint about a coach or playing time or something, right? Like you're
Sure.
trying to solve the issue. And then if most ADs in the state are also dealing with discipline,
Sure, they have
teacher
another job,
evaluations.
yeah.
So, I mean, it's hard to do it. So I agree that not every AD is
Sure.
that diligent about that part of it, but that's the job, right?
No, it's 100% the job. But as a coach, if you present an idea or have a solution to some, you would think there'd be some support, even if it's a
Yes.
little more work for them.
Yeah.
Like, you're right, Coach. It's going to be hard for me to do it, but I'm going to fit it in. I have an athletic secretary. She'll fit some stuff in.
Yep.
Whatever you need, Coach, because guess what? You play in 10 days.
Yeah.
Like, our baseball season was a tryout, and realistically, we were scrimmaging 5 days later. We can play up to 10 days after that,
Yeah.
you know? Like, it was right on you.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
It's just good to get
Right
some
on. That was
ideas
cool.
from you from a coach to an AD perspective, man.
Yeah, right on.
Very, very
That was
cool.
fun. I was nervous.
No, you're good, man. I knew you have, like, it's just crazy to think about some of the coaches that would even ask for some of the questions from an AD, you know, of lowering the bar. That's what irritates me the most, man.
And it does happen. You know, I think I've been pretty lucky that most of the coaches that I've worked with haven't tried to push that bar.
Sure.
They've kept it there and like this is what
Then you've had some good hires,
Yeah.
yes?
but you know, the eligibility part, there's so much that goes into it, and a big part of that is what happens in the school, and teachers are overwhelmed, right? So doing the eligibility report is another thing that the teachers have to do. So
Sure.
some may not do it the best, and that's where my frustration comes in, because you're either hurting a kid, or then this kid is playing and he or she shouldn't be,
Right.
but it's because not everybody updated their grade book, right? There's
100%.
situations where a kid is on the court and I get a teacher like, why is this kid playing? This
You
is
didn't-
the grade report that I got.
Yeah.
What is there, like,
That's
there's no way, right? Like, well,
This is what
this
you
is,
turned
this
in.
is what I got.
Yeah, this is the fanciest one we turned in.
Yeah.
But I take it a step further than that. I have my 14-year-old here tonight, and I tell him, I say, hey, man, like, you need to address to your teachers that you're an athlete. Like, period.
Yeah.
Like, hey, my name's Dan Medina. I tell my 12-year-old and my 14-year-old I want them in the front of the class at all times. I tell our college kids we want them that at all
Yeah.
times. And it's just more for an attention thing, but being persistent. Like, I want them to be there. And I want them to shake the hand and say, hey, I play baseball. I want to play at a high level. Hey, I'm a freshman here at high school, and I want to play freshman baseball this year. Like, if you plug that with the teacher,
Yeah.
and it comes from the athlete, I think that gives them that incentive, hopefully as an adult, just to work a little harder and make sure, hey, that kid came out and said, so it means a lot to him. I'm gonna make sure eligibility's in on time.
Yeah.
Or that makeup assignment, I'm gonna do my best to get it in on time. You know.
The communication piece with teachers, coaches, ADs, right, is so important.
It is.
And more important for the kids to learn how to communicate with their teacher.
It has to be done.
That they're advocating for themselves, right? We throw that word around, like, go advocate for yourself. This
Yeah.
is what you want. This is who you are. Like, tell me how to help you get there.
Sure.
You have to tell me.
You
'Cause I
have
can't
to.
guess. I have 120 kids, other kids as a teacher, sometimes more than that, right?
Yeah.
I got to get to know 120 kids. Come talk to me.
You have
and
to.
teach your kids to go talk to the teacher.
Yeah, teach them, introduce themselves. Hey, I'm an athlete. I play this sport. Love to have you out. Come check out a game. Just plugging those small
Yeah.
seeds definitely helps out in the long run.
Yeah, and just to say this statement, because I think I hear a lot social media posts and stuff. Teachers get dogged for like not doing the right things, and I guarantee you, Bubs, that nobody got into teaching because they didn't want to work with kids.
Right.
Like, it's
Right.
just not worth it.
No, I get
mean,
it.
there's the vacations and stuff like that. Like,
finance is ridiculous.
yeah,
I couldn't imagine.
the teachers deserve like that type of respect that everybody gets, but like no teacher's in it to hurt your kid.
right.
They're not.
Right.
So
no, I
communicate
totally
with
get
them.
it. Yeah, you just over communicate with them, treat them respectful, and I'm sure it's reciprocal, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Episode
Hey,
8.
Episode 8 in the books. Are we gonna do seasons?
We should.
Are we gonna do 10 and then call it a season?
I say we do 10.
Okay.
10 sounds like a good number.
All right. Hopefully Eric got his 20 likes or 20 shares.
I know he's already asking to come back, so we'll see. We'll see if it's in the cards.
Like, download, and share. YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast. We're all over there. Give us a like, give us a share, give us some comments. We love to hear your feedback. Stop bashing me about the baseball comment.
Go Cowboys.
Go Broncos. Huh?
We'll see. Sounds good. Episode 8. Good job. Thanks, Jess.